You are listening to Between the Stretchers, a funeral podcast with all of your funeral industry news. And now your host, Amy, Austin, Ebony, and Scott.
Episode number 3 of Between the Stretchers with Ebony, Austin, and myself. And today we're going to talk about a few different things. And we've got a good lineup of things to talk about with you today. And we're really excited to get another episode going. So, as always, like, subscribe, share with your friends, and follow us on Facebook. Austin, if you'd like to lead us off today in our topics of discussion.
Absolutely. A few of the things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a couple of articles, one of which I'm probably going to plug in multiple episodes. It has to do with death certificates and doctors on Gabbers.
Oh no, what a hot topic here in funeral service.
Yes.
Way to start off episode number 3 with getting on everyone's nerves.
Why not? Why not? I mean, we all ask ourselves why we even do death certificates. But we'll get into that. Another article we're going to talk about is, of course, the bad news in funeral service. A shady funeral director does something and we all have to pay for it. Yes. We're going to talk about a little bit about what happened in Aiken Funeral Home in South Carolina, where they kind of didn't do right by a little lady. And we'll get into kind of what that was and what transpired. We'll also kind of give a little opinion on how skeezy that may have been. We're also going to talk a little bit about Georgia law continuing ed. We're going to get into that a little bit because they're proposing changes, and it has upsides and it has downsides, so we got to get into both of those.
Yes.
Another thing we're going to talk about is these little badges you see us wearing. It's our MoreTrack app, and they don't sponsor us, but we are going to give them plugs because they have been fantastic to work with. Also, we are going to talk about some embalming. We're going to kind of go through embalming episode by episode with a little tidbit here and there. Today, we're going to talk about machines and tables and the basis. So we'll get started. Let's dive into the hot topic and get it out of the way. There is an article. I think it was in the AJC.
Yes.
And that article was about the death certificates and doctors not having to sign them but for 30 days. Mm-hmm. And right now, with the way the laws are, funeral directors technically are supposed to have our part done within, I believe, 72 hours.
Yes.
Which is sometimes a little unrealistic if the next of kin is on the other side of the country.
Or even when it starts, you pick the body up on Friday after 5, and you've got to have that death certificate by Monday morning.
Yeah.
It's just most of the time it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And there's a lot going on with it. There's a couple of House representatives in Georgia that are kind of pushing this, and they want to get together with funeral directors and doctors and talk it out. Naturally, when you get in a setting like that, people are going to defend their own side. The doctors are going to push back against it. Funeral directors are going to push for it. Personally, I'm from Tennessee, and I can tell you that a system that requires the doctor to register on the electronic system is wonderful because we don't have to fool with it. If they're not on there, we call the state finds them, they get them registered, and it works. It's great.
And from experience from both of us working in North Georgia, very close to the Tennessee line, where we got bodies out of Chattanooga all the time, that VRISM system was amazing. You call them if you have any issues, and those people, the folks at the state office were wonderful to deal with, and they'd fix a problem just as quick as they could, and they were always wonderful to talk to. Anytime we ever had an issue logging in or getting something done, you just pick up the phone and call them, and they'd have it fixed within generally an hour or two. Very rarely took more than that. It was a quick phone call, and an hour or two later, you had what you needed to get done. And that's really how this system should work, but it doesn't. And someone we do want to kind of start introducing a little bit that we kind of secretive. You won't know exactly who it is. Some of you may try to guess it. We'll see. But the world's most interesting funeral director, we're going to introduce a little bit and give you his take on it. And as he says all the time, the funeral homes need to get out of the death certificate business. That's his take on this whole topic is we don't need to do this anymore. it's something the funeral homes took on to make things easier, but it's become the biggest expense on the funeral homes expense chart, and we just need to get out of it. Says the world's most interesting funeral director. So we're gonna kind of debate this topic here between the three of us now. But it's got good sides, it's got bad sides, it's ups and downs like anything.
And let me say this: on the front side of things, I agree 100%. I agree that is something we do to make it easier. Some funeral homes do charge for death certificates, but even the ones that charge for death certificates charge a minuscule amount when you add up the man hours that go into making that thing happen. Because it's a beast in Georgia. It is an absolute headache. And how often do we get a signed death certificate with the body?
Very rare.
Basically never. I mean, I was at Emory the other night, and they just flat out looked at me and said, at night, Emory no longer issues death certificates with the decedent. So you got to go through medical records. We're getting somebody in medical records at 9 out of 10 hospitals. It's like pulling cat's teeth. It's pain in the butt.
And you go to Piedmont, CareLink, you've seen it.
Yeah.
And if they come in the ER, you don't get a death certificate from Piedmont.
Not at all.
So, it's a very difficult thing to go through. And, whether you're for it or against it, however you feel, that's how you choose to feel. But my opinion on it is the doctors have almost all of the pertinent information for the death certificate. Why not have them fill out that death certificate, send it to us? We have just a few lines on there that we need to add a few things to. The cemetery or disposition, the funeral director's license or the embalmer's license number if we did the embalming, and the funeral home information. Other than that, that's all we need to add. They have that information. Integrate there aren't many software systems that the doctors use. Integrate that in. Transfer the patient information that they've already collected in the very beginning when that person became a new patient, because as we all know, we've sat down and filled those out for our doctors, and they take every information that you need to know. It's going to be on there. Let them take care of that. We don't have to do that anymore. Send it to us like we send it to the doctors now. We fill out our small portion and we turn it back over to the state and let them certify it. We can still go pick them up for the families if they choose to do that, or if Gavers would set that system up where we can mail them, have them directly shipped from there, put it on the bill, have them pay for that service, send it to them. We can make this such a better way. But the way it is right now, I think it's just so costly for the funeral home. And like you said, the man hours is just incredible. And you having to go out there, everybody has to run out there and grab a death certificate and take it to someone's house.
Yeah.
That's all time that, we're taken away from being able to do removals or Ebony doing his general manager duties or anything like that. It's and especially for funeral homes. A funeral home out of state calls us and asks us to do that, let alone a funeral home sitting here in Georgia who, their staff is sick, on vacation or something, or they're just incredibly busy. It's overwhelming.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'll talk about the man hours real quick, and then we'll go through the article itself. With the man hours side of it, I have worked at funeral homes to where an out-of-state funeral home calls in and says, "Hey, I need a death certificate filed in your county. Is there any way you can help me out?" And I've witnessed the funeral home owner saying, "Sure, I'll be happy to take care of that for you." And immediately they're like, "Okay, what are your charges?" And the funeral homeowner puts his hand over the phone and looked at me and said, "I kind of feel bad to charge him just for that." And I said, "You do realize it's probably going to cost you $150 to $200 in payroll, time, lights. You're having to pay for the internet and the phone line to fax it with. You're having to pay for the paper, the ink." So I wouldn't feel bad about it.
The gas to drive down to the courthouse to get the death certificate.
I mean, it's every little bit counts, especially with today's inflation and stuff. Every little bit counts, especially with the smaller funeral homes that don't have a bunch of other funeral homes to support them when they're in a slow spell.
But speaking of not having a bunch of other funeral homes to support you, you do have A1 Funeral Service and Transportation in Marietta, Georgia. 404-850-4848.
Always. Check us out online. Our website from the first two episodes has changed just a little bit. We were in the process of setting that up. It's similar. It's a1funeralservice.net. But if you Google A1 Funeral Service, we're going to pop right up. Yep. And as far as I know, we're the only one I've been able to find in the nation.
Yep.
So, we're right there. We're available to help. We're always ready to help anyway.
And if you do call us for about a death certificate, we'll still help you out. We may charge, but we will help you out and we'll take care of everything for you.
Again, we're going to keep mentioning him. You'll get to hear some commentary later on. But in the words of the most interesting funeral director in the world, for a nominal fee, we'll make that happen for you with no problems. But, that's kind of how that goes. But with the article itself, you're going to look on the AJC. And the headline on this article is a little bit deceiving. It took me a minute to find it. I will go ahead and plug Eric Smith up at Cochran's. He's the one that enlightened me to this information. Brilliant young funeral director, and he is interested, and I like to see that in a new funeral director. But delays in death records leave Georgia families in financial limbo. Now that's true to an extent, but they're clickbaiting with those headlines.
Yes.
What this more or less comes down to is the fact that they're in 2010, the state of Georgia spent $1.45 million on electronic vital record system. Now, that's a chunk of taxpayer dollars for a system that almost no doctors use. There's 395 registered users at the time this article was written, and only 94 of them were doctors. The rest was all counties, funeral homes, that sort of thing. And that's basically every funeral home in Georgia, because there's only about 300 in Georgia.
Yeah,
that would pretty well be all the counties and all the funeral homes, and then like a few doctors.
That's just looking at the numbers. That's just ridiculous, because there's thousands and thousands of doctors.
Oh yeah.
And to see the number so small, and to spend over $1 million,
yeah,
and to not have the doctors, that should have been the first thing they looked at, because the funeral homes were going to do it no matter what, because we have to.
Mm-hmm.
We have to.
Yeah.
But to not have that, to have that few doctors is just mind blowing.
Oh yeah.
I just sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's a waste of money.
It
really is.
And they wonder why we have fiscal problems.
Oh yeah. I mean, and here's what you can do as a funeral director: reach out to your state rep.
Sharon Cooper's one of them.
Sharon Cooper is pushing this. Again, she wants to get everybody together and talk about it. I think read the article. I think she got some really good information from a couple of the funeral home owners in the Atlanta market. You would be familiar with them if you were in the Atlanta market. Eddie Dressler commented in the article, and he owns Dressler's Jewish Funeral Care. Cy Hune commented in the article, and he owns part of As Turner's. So you're gonna get some good information out of this article. It was pretty well written, but call your local rep and let them know, hey, this is a serious problem for the funeral homes here in your district. You should get behind this. You should push it, because it's not going to inconvenience the doctor. Because if they're in Gavers, as long as they sign off on it, their clerical staff can put it in the system.
Yep.
And it's one less thing they have to do.
And they have the clerical staff for it. They do.
Absolutely. So, and it doesn't have to be, we're not pushing to put them in jail if they don't get on the system, but it's like, just make it, that's how you do death certificates. And then
make it statewide.
Yeah.
Make it have clear, defined guidelines.
Absolutely.
That's all we're asking for these days.
Oh yeah.
Because they have clear, defined guidelines for what we have to do.
Oh yeah. And one of the selling points, I remember when Gavers came out, one of the selling points for Gavers was the fact that you no longer had to sit there with a fuzzy faxed copy and try to decipher a doctor's handwriting. Now, I'm not throwing shade, because there's some pretty bad writing in funeral service too, but doctors tend to forget letters. They just make lines. And so, trying to do that is awful. And if you send it to the county that way, the county will just bounce it. They'll say, I can't read it. Send it back.
Yep.
And then we're stuck in the middle.
Do.
So it's not an inconvenience thing. It's make everybody's life a little easier, and it's not going to make the doctors any harder.
No. And at the end of the day, whatever we say here, we're just kind of playing both sides of the fence. We do have our opinions on it, but we're all trying to work together to get the job done for the family. And I can tell you right now, I've had, just as both of you, we've had families that come to us and they're like, we went to the bank, we told them so-and-so died, now I can't get into our joint bank account, I can't pay the bill on our truck this month, I'm going to, different things, they're going to lose their house, they're not going to make their payment, lose their car, and doctors just don't realize the inconvenience that this death certificate is, especially someone that passes away in an accident, and it's 6 months before toxicology comes back, and that's 6 months without a death certificate, and that's one of the things I know I started telling families. It's better to ask forgiveness than permission. Don't go to the bank and say so-and-so died.
No.
Wait until that death certificate comes back and then go in there and tell them about it, because they're going to freeze it beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
And when you run out of money, myself included, just like everyone else, we need our money to pay our bills. And I don't think there's anybody out there that's got a place where they can live for free and a car they don't have to pay for. Yeah, and everyone needs money,
and they don't have to be unreasonable about any of it. They can pull that 30-day time frame for doctors back to 5 to 7 business days. You don't got to even work on the weekend. 5 to 7 business days is more than adequate, because most of the time when I have laid a death certificate in front of a doctor, it's taken them less than 5 minutes to flip through the medical chart and find what they need.
Yep.
And you're out the door. You're done. And plus, here's the upside. I have at least 5 doctors' personal cell phones in my phone. They didn't give me their number. Their nursing staff did, because I was nice to them and they will do anything for a donut. So
we're gonna have to edit that out.
And one of them asked me the first time I called him, "How did you get my number?" And I said, "That's for me to know and you not to. But I'm gonna ring this number every time I can't find you to sign a death certificate. You want to get rid of that problem? Get on Gabbers. 5 to 7 days. You're not going to have funeral directors hounding you to death. They're going to expect this time frame, and they're going to let the family know. 30 days." The look on a family's face when you tell them that the death certificate's going to take 30 to 90 days. That's ridiculous. That's
and especially
ridiculous.
When you tell the family the average for the state of Georgia is 21 days, they just look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
And the doctors look at you or call you upset when... what was the fun game we liked to play when we were managing funeral homes?
Oh, yeah. Fax all the ads to the doctor's office, and they would finally get tired of paper coming out of the machine.
Yeah, once an hour, every hour, we'd send all the paperwork we could find in the funeral home for any ad that we'd seen. Just put it in a fax machine and send it to them. And at some point, they're going to get tired of it, and they will call you back. But we don't want to have to do that. There's no reason we should have to do that.
Right.
And Ebony, what's your feelings on the matter?
Honestly, from the aspect of where more often than not, when you're dealing with the families, and you would think, normally when I first started, I remembered the funeral directors would give them a timetable that seemed sensible, but then all of a sudden, with all the fluff in between trying to chase around the doctor to actually sign off on the whole death certificate, then the family's looking back at you, and they're suffering, like you said before, because actually, they've lost a loved one who was like in situations where it's an older couple where let's say the husband, everything was in their name. And all of a sudden, as far as all the bills and everything else, and when accountants froze, like for example, when they do, honestly, the honest thing as far as contacting the bank to actually let them know that their spouse has passed away, and months are down the line, and basically these families are at risk of losing everything because they can't access the funds that are rightfully theirs because of the whole fluff with the filing of the whole death certificate. It's a big headache. So actually, I think that would definitely work if actually you would hold the doctors, if you will, more accountable for signing off on the DCs.
Absolutely. Another topic we're going to get into is a couple of criminals in funeral service. Funeral service don't have a lot of them, but it seems like when we get one here or there, they do something bad enough that we wind up paying for it.
Huge.
It's all over the front page because they like to demonize funeral homes.
Yes, Lord. And there is, I think it's called thestate.com. It's they've got an article out, and I'll read you the headline, and Scott will be able to tell you more about it. But the headline is Aiken Funeral Home Owner Partner Swindled South Carolina Woman with Dementia from $8 million will, suit says.
Wow.
Expound on what happened just a little bit, because this is a crapshoot. This is absolutely skeezy.
So, the elderly lady, unfortunately, was suffering from dementia, and from reading through the article and talking to other professionals in the industry, the former owner of the funeral home and current owner of the funeral home made sure to go out and spend time with her and get the will changed to where it no longer gave it to any no funds to the relatives, to some schools and some charities. That the $8 million, and I do say $8 million that were supposed to go, all came to the former owner and current owner of the funeral home in Aiken, South Carolina. And we talk about ethics and being ethical professionals and professionals, keyword professionals in this business, and this is not what a professional does, and it's not especially what an ethical professional does. And I know at times there are things that you think cross your mind and think, oh well, if I did that, things would be easier. Yeah, things could be easier, but there's no reason to swindle a little old lady and her relatives and charities. I mean, charities and schools out of money that they desperately need in a time that not much funding's coming out, because just like everything else, just like the death certificate issue we just talked about, everything's rising. Inflation, cost of living's gone up, and right now to take $8 million is just incredibly cruel.
Yes.
But it looked like in the article he had bought a mansion before she died, hoping that she would die soon, and kind of got it set up where he ended up getting sued because he didn't make the first payment on the mortgage because he didn't have the money. Talk about count your chickens before they've hatched.
Right.
Tell me about it. And unfortunately, that happens a lot when people get older. If there's somebody that will take advantage, they start early.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sad situation. It's a pathetic situation. And like you were saying, the thing that strikes me the worst out of the situation is not just the fact that he messed with one of the two no-nos. You don't mess with kids and you don't mess with old people. That's stupid, that's dumb, that's trashy, that's, at that point, do you really deserve to be taking up oxygen? But anyway,
but
the charities. The charities in the middle of we've come through a pandemic, and I can tell you because my mother is a director of a large nonprofit, and they help people, basically abused people, start over. And they lost a ton of their funding from the state. They lost a ton of their federal funding because the budgets don't have it. They don't have it to give them anymore. So they rely heavily on donations, and every single penny counts.
Yes.
But it's amazing what kind of damage that one act could have done.
And I will mention, just to bring kind of a little bit of closure to the article, the funeral directors did sign. They stopped their contention of the will, and sent it back to where they're going back to use the original will, and the money will be distributed that hadn't been given to them. It didn't say how much or if any had actually gotten distributed to them.
Yeah.
But it did say that it was going to revert back to the original will before this forged document that they believe was forged. And those groups will get the money that they needed and they rightfully deserved.
Right.
And at this time, it doesn't show any charges are being filed. That may change, and if it does, we can update you later. But something needs to be done, because
that's right.
Getting away scot-free doesn't mean they aren't going to try it again. And I hate saying that, because it gives a black eye to the entire profession. That families are going to start thinking, oh, why is that funeral director hanging around Mama before she passes away?
Right.
And that just maybe she comes in a lot and visits the funeral home and goes to a lot of visitations because, unfortunately, as you get older, a lot of your friends start passing away, and it does suck to be the last person in your group alive. But going to the funeral home, you end up spending a lot of time getting to know the funeral directors there at your local funeral home, and that's who you know. And
it is not at all uncommon for a funeral director in a small town to be a part of every family. That's a tender moment in your life when you lose a loved one, and the person that is there for you during that time, you're going to get close to. I worked at a small town funeral home, and there was this little old lady that came to the funeral home probably once a week just to sit and talk. And it sounds crazy, but I mean, she would literally ask us. She was wheelchair bound. She would literally ask us to lay her in her casket to make sure it was going to be comfortable, and that the mattress wasn't degrading. And that was her peace of mind. I know it seems weird to some, but she was terminal. She knew she was going. So at that point, it was just the comfort. And that's not uncommon in a small town. But stuff like this is going to make people suspicious.
Yeah,
and it's just the fact that it's a battle every day for us to do what I think pretty much all of us and you guys as well, to serve families. We're passionate about it. This is something that's genuine. And then when you have articles like this that basically put out that where the whole world can see it, it just seems like it's just another jab at the industry. Where honestly, I think for the most part across the board, there are people who are truly there for the families, for the elderly, and are there to support and help them. But this, like Scott said earlier, is like a black eye to it. It's just it's basically just a push down up the hill that we all climb every day, trying to serve and support our families each and every day.
Absolutely. And I don't know what the laws are in South Carolina. I really don't, as far as that goes. I know we have ethics incorporated into the laws in Georgia, and it's something like that would usually inevitably result in your license is gone. It's gone, and it should be that way. There are too many people out there that hold a funeral director's license that do not stand up to the mustard. We take oaths when we graduate college. This is stuff that we're supposed to do. This is stuff we swear to do. And and stuff like that just leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. And I know people are probably going to watch this and they're going to say, "Oh, you're attacking your own. He ain't one of mine." Mm-hmm. Yep. Heck no, he ain't one of mine.
And at the end of the day, it's something that all of us as professionals and like we all like to say, we're professionals. Mm-hmm. We're professional funeral directors. We have a license. And yes, we do have all that. But at the end of the day, if you want to say it, you got to walk it too. Yes. You got to walk the line. And that's something that I know this group sitting here today, we do everything we can to walk that line. Mm-hmm. And we can't say that for everyone. But at the end of the day, we know we can go home and go to sleep, and that we've done that. Mm-hmm. Yes. And we continue to do that day in, day out. And that, I have to say, is one of the reasons we've grown the way we've grown.
Mm-hmm. And going back into reading the article, it's a sad thing where literally the one who ended up, I guess, running the funeral home after the initial person had stepped down and stepped away from the funeral home, they described it as his protege that was in his 20s. So this older funeral director literally developed and groomed this younger one into becoming a scam artist, pretty much. And that's even sadder, It
is. Absolutely. But I think Austin's got us another topic.
I do, and I will say one thing. One last comment on that article. This is not contemporary art. A piece of trash cannot be beautiful in this industry. It is what it is. But the next thing we're going to talk about, and we are going to give a heavy plug to this company, because through thick and thin, this company has went above and beyond to work with us and support us, and it has been wonderful not only for us but for our clients. Our clients love having this security blanket behind them, and the company in question is called Mortrack.
Yes,
it's like mortuary track. It's Mortrack. And if you ever want to look at it, you can look at the app itself. They've got a little bit of information about it.
Here's the app.
Yes, Mortrack.app.
And the wonderful thing is all of our drivers, all of our staff carry these wonderful little cards. As you can see, all of us are holding them up.
Yes.
We've got our QR code, so as soon as driver comes on shift or one of us get a call, all it takes is a simple scan of the QR code, and then they put in their PIN, which I'm doing right now.
And I will tell you, this is one of those systems that's somewhat like Director's Assistant. When you set it up, put the information in right the first time, because they don't make it to where you can change some of this stuff for security reasons.
Right. Yes.
So definitely.
But it gives you a pop-up of all the vehicles that we have in our current fleet. Thankfully, we didn't put in our Lincoln because we did have the Lincoln back when we got this first, and we didn't put it in right then, and we have since had a tragic loss of the Lincoln.
Yes.
It was totaled. Someone backed out of a driveway into the Lincoln as it was going down the road. But the good news is Carl, who was driving it, is fine. Everyone's alive and well, so that's all that matters. But it does pull up the car that the person will be driving that day when they come on shift. So all they have to do is click it. It takes them over to a checklist if you choose to put one on there, and they fill out their checklist on their vehicle, and then it comes to their assigned log where anything you assign to them will show up there. They just have to refresh it, click on that case, and they proceed through it. It gives them all the pertinent information that's needed for the removal.
Absolutely.
And our general manager Ebony here will kind of talk a little bit, if you'd like, about what happens on the death call.
And the cool thing about it is actually literally from everybody, from the staff to management, everyone can basically track the whole process of the removal.
And the funeral home too. If you sign up for our MoreTrack system, you can actually see where all of our drivers are at during the death call, but only for your death calls. You can't see them for all of our death calls for all our funeral homes. But for your death call, you can see their ETA to the place of pickup, and then from the place of pickup back to the funeral home.
Yes.
And it gives options as far as like, and everything can be accessible to you once again. Of course, you will be able to have your the physical copy of the pronouncement sheet. But just say it's an overnight call and you want to check up on everything from home. You can go ahead and you can go and log in to the MoreTrack, and from there, basically, you'll be able to get everything from the personal effects, the location of the person once they're brought back to your prospective funeral home. Also, they can give a roundabout of the weight or the size of the person. Yes. So basically, from this standpoint, it makes it easier for the firms. It makes it easier for us as well, and it holds everyone accountable.
You also have the option to input the information for the death call yourself as a funeral home, and that ensures that the information you're giving to us is what you want us to have. And there's no like that footnote on the side of the page you didn't mean for us to pay attention to. We read everything you send us. So when you send us a picture of that thing, if Grandma's phone number is on the bottom corner and I can't get a hold of nobody else, guess what? I'm calling Grandma because the phone number's on the page.
Yep.
And so this gives you the ability to kind of filter that out after you've taken that death call. It also does a few things for you if you are in the mortuary transport business. As you're putting this call in and you get that address in there and stuff, it's going to tell you current weather conditions, where you're going. It's going to give you route options and stuff like that, and it is phenomenal because I mean, you know, if it's storm season here right now, we're getting a lot of thunderstorms and stuff. If we're going to Chattanooga and there's a tornado moving through Chattanooga, guess what? The app's going to tell us, hey, severe thunderstorm warnings, severe tornado warnings in Chattanooga. So we can tell the driver, you need to be alert. If it looks bad, pull over. You know, that sort of thing. Or if it's cold, take a jacket. Because if you're going to the top of Mount Eagle, it's cold pretty much all the time.
It tells you temperature, current conditions, and the wind.
Yes.
And that's important because as all of us know, you don't, if a lot of us, all three of us, we do the strap underneath the cot cover, but when it's windy you want to do it over it because about the time you get halfway to the car from the house and that thing goes blowing down the street, it's an issue. And I apologize for the phone calls. We are still at work when we are doing these.
Definitely. But yeah, definitely check them out, moretrack.app, and you can kind of go through and look at it. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, and it pains me because I'm not an Apple person at all. I like my Android, but it works much better on Apple products. So if you're an Android person, maybe consider getting an iPad. It works tons better with Apple products. It was just designed that way, and it is what it is. We all make mistakes. But anyway, we do want to get into real quick before we wrap this up, embalming, and we want to try to touch on it on most of the episodes because we do so much of it and we see so much of it. So we're going to kind of go through the basics right now. We're going to start with machines and tables. And that is such a huge swath. So we're just going to kind of go over some pros and cons. I'm one of those people who like many different tables and many different machines. I'm a little old fashioned. I will say the porcelain's my favorite. That's what I have. That's my table. That's what I like. But everybody's a little different. What would you say your favorite would be?
I don't mind the porcelain. I grew up. I started out with porcelain tables. We have, I think, 2 or 3 porcelain tables now.
Mm-hmm.
We have a fair bit of porcelain tables.
Yeah.
One actually from the Central State Mental Hospital,
And
from their prep room, and one from Ohio, the one you brought.
From the university there in Dayton. Yeah. It was out of the cadaver lab. And that one has an interesting backstory. While we're talking about tables, I'll tell you a little bit about that. That table I found on GovDeals.
Hey.
And what had happened is but when they stopped using that particular autopsy venue or cadaver lab, they just boarded over the door. And years later, now this was probably in the 70s, years later, they were looking at the blueprints of the building because they were going to do some renovations, and they noticed there was a huge room in the building that wasn't there. And so they just cut a hole in the wall to see what was going on and found this equipped cadaver lab and embalming suite in the middle of the school that had been boarded up for years and years and years. And the table that I have is actually the original one that they had in there. And it works like a brand new machine, and it still had fluid in it, and it rolled and everything because it was still climate controlled in that part of the building.
Well, we've got 2 really good historic tables.
Yeah.
For most funeral homes don't have such a thing, but we do here at A1. But I do like the porcelain tables. I started out using them. We have some great historic ones.
Everybody in funeral service knows if your dad was a funeral director, you grew up around them.
Yeah, but I will admit I like the ability that we have with the aluminum steel top tables that we can alter the feet and head much more than was possible before. And especially with, again, porcelain tables, they're great. But look at our porcelain tables. They're old as all get out. And what's the one thing? Those have stayed the same, but what's the one thing that has changed in funeral service?
Weight. For
this
the love of
right
all that
here.
is holy, weight.
And they keep getting wider and wider. And the tables... that's the one nice thing about the steel top tables. With hydraulics, you can get wider tables. But the problem is you got to make sure the doors in the funeral home are wider.
Yes, definitely.
But now I will say this: I have noticed something. I was embalming at one of our clients' embalming suites, and it was unique because I never noticed it. I always used the other station, and this time I had to use that station. And they have an oversized hydraulic steel top. And that thing is wide as the devil. And they have boards that come out from under it that make it even wider.
Yeah.
I mean, that blessed thing looks like a double wide trailer. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But it works well.
Yeah.
And it doesn't struggle. I mean, the person I was embalming was probably a healthy 280, 290.
Yeah.
And it had, there was room to spare. There was room to spare.
And that's the big thing is, like I said, I like the porcelain tables. But the steel tops are accommodating bigger size because as things are changing, weight's still going up, and we're seeing bigger and bigger people, and that table can accommodate those people, and that's really what we need. Right here, sitting right in front of us, an oversized stretcher.
Yes,
and that's something that we try to put in all our cars at this point because
we couldn't live without them.
Yeah.
You can. You
Right.
show up on a scene and you get there and the person's 600 pounds. You can't put them on a normal stretcher and you can't put them on a normal table because they're going to overflow. And that's when you get your issues, especially with a funeral home where the prep room's on the second story and you start overflowing the table and for some reason the embalming room's over the visitation room, the chapel, or wherever, and you start ruining the floor and the ceiling of the floor below you, and it's just those little things that you gotta kind of think about when you're building your embalming suite that people don't think of. Floor drains save your life.
Yes,
Definitely
Lord, they do, as long as they don't back up.
Then Roto-Rooter saves your life.
Yes, they do. But and here's a perspective we have, and I'm kind of probably pick on you a little bit here, Ebony.
Mm-hmm.
Ebony is from New York, so he started his funeral service career in the Northeast, which is a vastly different landscape than here. It is a whole different beast up there. I mean, I think in New York you even have to be licensed to do a removal.
Yes,
which is
you do.
crazy.
I mean, you have to have a license or at least have a apprentice license at the very least.
Yeah.
Where here it's a lot more open. It's a lot more open than that, and another aspect that in the past I've discussed with you guys, where actually literally in New York State a licensed funeral director can pronounce.
Yep.
Where in a lot of instances here that would have made things a lot more easier for us.
And we see a lot of hospice nurses coming down here from New York that think we can pronounce but don't realize that we can't.
Yeah, they hand us a blank form and they're like, pronounce it. And it's like, I'm sorry, this isn't New York. I can't do that. My bad. But one of the things I wanted to go off of there, when you first started in funeral service, what was the first embalming table that you remember being exposed to?
It was a porcelain. Yeah, the first funeral home I worked at, they had 4 porcelain tables. I was about to ask you guys a question. What do you think as far as durability between them?
Durability?
Between the steel top and the classic porcelain.
It all has to do with upkeep. Because in the time that I've been in funeral services, I've seen both fail due to non-upkeep.
Gotcha.
And here's the thing. With the porcelain table, if you do not make sure you clean around the drain, it's going to rust out, the drain's going to fall out of it. And getting one put back in that thing is nearly impossible with any kind of decent look to it. Whereas with the steel tops, they're hydraulics and their pedals. If you don't clean the base of that thing every once in a while,
those wheels, you get chips start chipping at those wheels, and you get the rubber on them, and the brakes feel bad.
Very fast.
But that's again,
it's upkeep,
putting bodies on equipment that's not made to accommodate those bodies. And that's where a lot of those putting someone that's over the weight limit on it and it tears the brakes up and breaks them, that you need to have that oversized table that you can put them on so that way you're not tearing up your equipment. If you're not using it for the right thing, you're going to break your equipment.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things I did want to, we'll jump on the slop sink side of it, and a sink, a toilet, or a direct plumb. But one of the things I did want to mention is there are a couple of companies, I think Moby Medical is actually one of them, and they make a steel top table that is just literally a table with 4 legs and wheels, and it's got a big old kick lift on it, and they're rated for like 1,200 pounds. They're big old honky tables, and they're if you love your porcelain table, you don't want to get rid of it, but you need something to accommodate the larger bodies we're getting, because everybody's getting blessed fat. But anyway, myself included. But that is a good option, because that thing literally, you can fold the legs up under it and stand it up in the closet when you don't need it. And when you need it, it takes 2 people, get it out, fold the legs down like a picnic table, lock them, you can put them on there. It has those adjustments on it. They're not hydraulic, they're a big old lever, but it still does the job for a heavy body.
Yes.
But adjust it before you put the heavy body on it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Makes it a little easier.
Yes, very much. You got to have some weight to adjust that head in if you got a big body.
Yep.
But that's a good option. Now, the first funeral home I worked in had the flushable, like big square toilet slop sinks. The second funeral home I worked in had the original old iron sink, just a sink with a drain in the bottom of it with a screen on it. And, those things are a pain in the butt to clean out. And the third funeral home I worked at had direct plumbing. What are y'all's preferences of the 3 and why?
I like the direct plumb because you don't generally have to worry about a lot of backup issues
and cleanup issues.
That's the big thing, the cleanup. But when it does back up, it backs up onto the table most of the time, and you got to kind of rush to set it off. In the toilet, it backs up in there. You got a little bit, but it's only if you notice it. Most of the time, by the time you notice it,
it's too late.
It's far too late. But it's all everybody's a little different. I do like the like you said at Moby and Pierce and a couple others have it where it's the whole metal fixture that hooks up, and it looks very clinical. It looks very nice, but it only looks nice as long as you clean it.
Maintain it, yeah.
Yes. And something I noticed, and I will say this, in the state of Georgia, we're required to cover the slop sink. With direct plumbing, you don't have to worry about that. It's covered anyway.
Yes.
But there is a system out there, one of our clients use it, and it's a wonderful little system. It's a stainless steel setup, and the table literally rolls up to it, and the drain just sets down in a cup.
Yep.
And there's a knob on the side of that cup you turn on, and it has a water jet in it that swirls that thing and breaks up anything that goes into it to push it down the drain.
Yep.
And there's a screen for anything big
Mm-hmm.
to catch it. And those things are phenomenal because I've embalmed autopsies on them, I've embalmed standard cases on them, and they've never backed up on me. It's always that swirl jet. If I'm doing something with powder or something, I'm worried about it getting down the drain, I turn that swirl jet on. As soon as it hits that drain, it's just like a blender and it's gone. And those things are phenomenal. Personal preference, I will say I like the flushable ones.
Yeah.
And the only reason I say that is because, for me, they are bar none the easiest to clean, and if they back up, you can usually fix it with a plunger.
That is true. That is true. And the big thing is, what works for you. And a lot of us, we don't have that choice. We just we get to a prep room, and that's what it's there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's there for us. Especially right now for us, it's what's there.
If you have the old original iron slop sinks though, and those of you that have them know what I'm talking about, for heaven's sakes, take that grate out of the bottom of it and clean it every once in a while.
Yes.
Because if you reach down that thing and pull out a string of hair and tissue that long, it's been too long.
But it's just like my shower drain, your shower drain, your shower drain, once a month.
Yeah.
Run one of those little plum
hair
weasel
thing,
thing through it, and get the hair out of it. Yeah, it's maintenance and upkeep. Just like we talked about putting too big a body on a stretcher or on a table, the little maintenance and upkeep things you can do in your prep room make the world of difference, where you don't have the major issues that happen.
What was the first one you used?
It was the
Metropolitan.
It was the toilet. It was the toilet. And the main thing, and actually as I went and got more experience, my job was to maintain and make sure everything was clean and it was flushing. So I know from that end, having to be the person to go back and have to fix the messes, because it's one thing, and I'm pretty certain a lot of you guys can attest to it. It's nothing worse than a messy embalmer. So the thing is, when like you said, it basically comes down to maintenance and just holding your embalmers accountable to clean up after themselves and doing maintenance checks after each embalming. And I understand it's busy, but it doesn't take long compared to the amount of time and money you have to spend when it gets backed up, and you literally have to go and get a plumber to go and take care of it, because it's not going to be cheap. It really isn't. Definitely not.
And I mean, you're especially if your prep room's on the second floor upstairs, you got to be nervous, because I don't care how good your contractor is. After 5 or 6 years of those heavy bodies rolling around that floor drain, it's gonna leak.
Yes.
And they never, for some reason, put the embalming room over a useless closet. It's always over the chapel or a stateroom, I swear.
Yep.
But that's something you have to worry about. So find the option that you have the least problems out of. I mean, that's just the best way to do it.
Yep.
But now the machine wise, there are a few machines I've seen that I would like to try, just to say I've tried them. One of them's that Frankenstein embalming machine. I want to see what that's about.
Yep.
The frigid machine. That's a lot of money for a brand new player. I want to know why. I want to know what it's like, what it does. I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm going to give them the plug. I'm a fan of the Dodge automatic pressure. That thing pushes some high pressure, but that flow rate is very controllable. It is easy to work with. It's fast and easy to clean out. If it gets stopped up, the filter unscrews. That's my personal favorite. But,
but when you overflow it takes a long time to realize you're overflowing it.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sound because it's got smooth sides all the way down to the counter. So, yeah, there's that. When you're cascading dye and formaldehyde down the fronts of the cabinets in the embalming room, that can be a problem. But, it happens. Duotronics are probably the most trusty.
So.
And I would say Porta Boys would be a close second there. Now, here's the funky thing about Porta Boys I've run into. A lot of people run a Porta Boy like a Duotronic, and they are not the same machine.
Yeah.
A Porta Boy should be running anywhere. If you're doing a pulse, it should have a 40-60 split on pressure. 60 pound high, 40 pound low. It should have some serious pressure. It's designed to run that way. If you're running steady, never ever ever run that thing below 25. You start winding that pressure down, and it's this pump sitting there stifling in itself. It needs pressure to work the way it's supposed to work.
Okay.
If you're worried about flow, get a flow meter and put on it.
And you can do that on any embalming machine.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's something they talked about at AGEG.
Yes.
Most of the embalmers at AGEG that were instructing and was talking, they embalm at 120 psi.
Yep.
Tell me that ain't some pressure, but it works.
But as the world's most interesting funeral director says, what's your blood pressure?
Usually when I'm having a real bad day, about 160, 170 over about 100.
So how are you going to embalm a body at 20 pounds of pressure and 5 rate of flow?
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
And without a drain tube, you aren't going to get capillary distribution. But we'll leave that for the most interesting funeral director to give you some more on that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But some other machines to check out while you're researching machines if you're thinking about upgrading. You know, we've got the classics. We got Duotronic and we got Dodge and we got Porta Boy. Those are the classics. The Frankenstein machine, if you're in a tight pinch on money,
Yep.
check out the Frankenstein. If you want something in every color under the rainbow, check out the Frigid. If you want something that's something most people don't have but is a very good, dependable little machine, Mortec.
That machine, I really did like that machine.
I just say
It's
heck of a little
ugly
machine.
as sin.
It is, but it's a good little machine.
It is, and it's really
solid.
nice.
Yeah, I mean it's a solid aluminum shell.
Yep.
I mean the thing is a chunk, but it works and it keeps working. When the Porta Boy pump backed out and staved out when I was learning how to use Frigid stop, that one kept pumping. So it's a tough little machine. It's got a float, cuts itself off when your solution gets low, that sort of stuff. So you don't have to worry about burning it out.
Yep.
Unless you do like some people we know and loop something under it.
Yep.
That's
And it's got a nice lid on it that's solid.
Yes.
It's a good solid lid with a rubber edge. It locks into place well. There have been a few times where I went to grab it and kind of threw it off. I was trying to pull it off with too much pressure.
Yeah.
But it's a good little machine. I liked it. It worked well. I can't remember how much it was, but it's a neat little machine.
Yeah.
But ugly as sin.
Yeah, that it is. But hey, at the end of the day, grab a can of spray paint or put a box around it. It'll be all right.
Yes.
But those are kind of the main things. I think we've ran a little bit long tonight, but this is our first time back in 2 years.
So we gotta bring it a little more, but look for updates in future episodes.
Yes.
We're hoping this weekend to bring you some content from the Georgia Swarm game.
Yes, we will be going to the Georgia Swarm game if everything holds out and everything goes good.
We are Georgia Swarm's company of the game this weekend for their last home game before the playoffs. So I think this mean if they win, they're in. If they lose, they're out. So hopefully we're the good luck that brings it in.
Right.
If not, we're gonna kind of cut this out and just forget this ever happened.
Right. So even if we publish this before then, this might disappear. So enjoy it while it lasts. But and I want to give. I will tell you right now, we respect our clients and we do not talk about our clients. But those of you that are watching this that know we work with you, thank you. This has been 2021 was one hell of a year.
Yes.
We did just under 2,000 calls in 2021, and that's all thanks to our clients.
Yes.
And they are wonderful, and you know who you are, and just know that you are helping make this possible. Because this is the fun part of what we get to do.
Yep.
But the funner part is meeting you guys smiling face day to day, and it is absolutely makes it worth it.
Right.
And I want to say again, we had a great time at the Academy of Graduate Embalmers. We got to meet so many people and shake so many hands. And if you were there, you probably saw the orange calipers.
Yes.
You probably wanted one. Hopefully you got some. We're going to be restocking and trying to send out to those people that didn't have an opportunity to get one. look for the calipers. We're going to be hopefully bringing more out and going to more conventions and different things. We're excited. We're ready. If you have any questions or ever need anything or just want to talk to us, reach out, give us a call, shoot us an email, comment on one of our videos or podcasts. We'd love to talk to you. We generally enjoy meeting new people and seeing what's going on in other places. I know Ebony and Austin spent a lot of time talking to people and kind of milling around the convention center. I spent a lot of time at the table trying to kind of watch over our stock of calipers before
It was a hot item.
the 2 days we were in convention that we were actually exhibiting, it took 10 minutes each day for us to be completely out of calipers, and probably about 30 minutes to be completely out of price list, and that was just amazing. And most of the time they'd hit us before we made it to the doors of the inner doors of the convention center to get into the expo. People were taking them out of our hands before we got there, and the second day we had like 40 calipers, and me and Ebony hit the actual expo floor with about 15 or 12 left.
Quickly.
So hopefully everyone got some. But look forward to more conventions. Look forward to having one of these orange calipers in your prep room. It's a great thing. It helps you measure deceased, and we will hopefully have them in next episodes to kind of show you why the yardstick may not be the best thing for you to use to measure, because it takes too many hands. Hopefully, if you're like us, we've only got two. We can't imagine a third one up.
Yeah.
So being back there by yourself, it's tough to do it by yourself. But we're excited. We're going to get these calipers out to everyone. See you at different shows. Come out, meet us, and hopefully, if we can figure out how to do this right, we're going to bring some podcasting equipment with us or video equipment with us to the future conventions, so we can interview people, talk to people, get to know everyone. And just kind of make new friends and
for sure
across the country and
keep
possibly
up with
the
old
world.
friends for sure. This episode is running extremely long, and it will. It's like I say, it's our first free range episode back where we're not just doing introductions and stuff. And we want to cover the bases, so when you're watching this podcast, you know how to interact with us, because interaction is key. Comment on these videos. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. That way when we're putting up content. Follow us on Facebook. It's at A1 Funeral Service. And, things like that are very important. We also want you to know that we embalm thousands and thousands of bodies. We have embalmed many, many, many thousands of bodies between all of our embalmers and our careers. So if you were standing in your prep room, especially if you were a student, or if you are new to the industry, or maybe it's something you haven't experienced yet, just because you aren't going to be calling us, hey, come do this embalming, that does not mean that you totally rule out our phone number. If you're standing there looking at a case and you're like, I want a second opinion, call that number, 404-850-4848. Somebody is going to pick that up 24 hours a day, and 99.9% of the time, that person is going to be a licensed embalmer. And they're probably going to have experienced something similar, and if not, we're going to toss it around between us and find one of us to have. And we want to help you with it, and stuff like that. If you hear us talk about something on here and you say, hey, I've experienced something like this is what I did, it worked well, leave it in the comments. And we're going to use those comments to not only form future episodes and what we talk about based on what you want to hear about, but we may ask you to come be a part of it and kind of go through that process with us. We're hoping to do some more instructional videos and stuff with embalming coming up in the near future. If you are interested in getting us to come out to your funeral home and talk to you, or work with your students, or work with you, or do anything of that nature, consulting wise or just straight up training wise, we're happy to do it. If you are staff at a mortuary school and you would like us to come and speak to your class, we are happy to do that. If it is a mortuary school, we don't charge to talk to kids.
No.
We're going to come out there and we're going to do our best to give them a picture of what we do and our side of the industry and try to help them. If you are another mortuary service and you say, hey, I'm running into this issue, maybe these guys have found an answer for it, call us. We'll talk to you about it. We use equipment that I haven't seen a lot of companies use. We use things like the Sievers and the Reeves and stuff like that. There's a lot of knickknacks and tricks to make those work better for you. Yep. So let us know. This industry is got plenty of room for everybody. So we want to help and not hurt, and we want to be useful and helpful to everybody in the industry.
Right. Yes, and 100%. Anything we can do to help, and I can tell you now. People call us and they say, hey, Scott, hey, Austin, hey, Ebony, I'm at such and such facility. We didn't have much going on, so we sent our own staff, but we don't know where to go at the hospital to get in.
Yeah.
We answer those questions. We're not going to be, have our feelings hurt that you didn't call us, because you can always call us on the next call because you realize, hey, man, they know the information.
Yeah.
And Carl still gets calls from people because his phone number's... They scratch out the phone number of the crematory company, the manufacturer, and write Carl's number above it, saying, call this guy because he knows how to fix the retort.
Yeah.
And that's just, anything we can do to help, we're always there to help, and that's what we're all about. We're about bringing the profession up with everyone and what we can do together to make this profession better. And that's what we're here for. We don't want anyone to ever say, hey, I feel alone. I don't feel like there's anyone I can call, because you can. Yes. Pick up the phone, 404-850-4848. One of us is going to answer the phone. We're going to help you out. Even if you don't end up using us, we're still going to do the best we can to help you. Because at the end of the day, word of mouth is the greatest advertisement for our business. And I can tell you right now, that's where 95% of our calls come from.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
People spreading our name to other people, and that is just such a wonderful attribute for our company and for all of our clients to be willing to say that these guys are great people and this company is a wonderful company. We just appreciate it so much. We're excited to be back on the air. We're excited to be bringing wonderful content to you. We're excited Ebony's on here now. Ebony's a little tired. It's been a busy day.
I'm happy to be here.
So we're excited for you to continue this ride with us. We started out with I think the last time we were recording this, we had maybe 40 or 50 calls a month. Yeah. And now we're up to we're way over that, over 100 calls a month, closing in on 200, and we're just. We're probably over that. We have to look at the numbers. It's been so crazy, we just don't have time to do all that, but we wanted to get back into doing this, and I'm glad we're doing it, and we're going to keep bringing you great content, and if there's anything we can ever do to help you, always think of A1 in your purveyors list on Southern Calls.
Yes.
We're advertised there under Georgia. Check us out. We're always happy to help. 404-850-4848. 404-850-4848. Just like the first episode where I had to look at a phone number. Struggled there for a minute, but I know the number.
Yeah. And look in the future, we are going to try to this is a YouTube channel, and it is going to go YouTube channel. But as we progress, of course, we're going to try to share this on our Facebook. Follow our Facebook. Because that is usually the most up-to-date news with us. Look at our website. Check out our website. Bookmark that thing. You're going to need it.
Yes.
Also, hopefully in the future we'll be able to even just upload the audio to some audio podcasts and stuff like that.
We are starting the Between the Stretchers podcast.
Yes.
We'll get that added to our Facebook page, our YouTube page. We'll have that out there. If anyone wants to come on the show, talk to us live in person or over the internet on Zoom or different streaming platforms, let us know.
Absolutely.
Any sponsorships, if you want to sponsor a product or the show, let us know. We're happy to do that.
Absolutely. And you do not have to just be a funeral director or an embalmer to be a part of the show. If you're a student, if you're a nurse, if you're clergy, if you are a doctor, if you are an attorney, especially estate attorneys, because Lord knows we could ask some good questions. You know,
If
stuff
you just
like
want to
that.
come and yell at
Probate
Austin
judge.
about what he said about death certificates,
You know.
do it.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. I am happy to talk to you about it. Again, as we've said in previous episodes, we're not here to discuss politics. We are here to talk funeral service and funeral service education because there's too much misinformation out there. We want to clear it up. And if you can help us get there, we would love to get to. I'd love to see 500 subscribers.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be a wonderful start. Get us to 500 subscribers. We'll do a giveaway.
Oh, you get big on giveaways now.
May as well. I mean, because people should get rewarded for helping us out.
We did have some wonderful giveaways that we were able to give away at the Academy of Graduate Embalmers. We had 3 gift bags and some gift baskets and some Braves World Series championship gear to give away. So that was wonderful. We love giving away things, and we want to and we gave away all the calipers that we had, and we love giving things away. So we're excited to do it.
We need to get some more people on here. We need to get some fluid reps and stuff on here. I need to call Steve. He calls me all the time with Champion and see if he wants to come on.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to talk to some people. Hopefully we get to see it at some conventions when we go out and do that, and we'll see how this weekend goes and see what content we can bring you from there. But as always, like, subscribe, follow, call us if you have any questions, and let us make your first impression great.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Well, it has been wonderful to talk to you guys again. Have a wonderful morning, evening, night, whenever you're watching this. I'm Austin.
I'm Scott.
And I'm Ebony.
Thank you guys for watching Between the Stretchers.